Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes power only when and if it is organized into definite plans of action and directed to a definite end.
That statement of yours, Mr. Hill, it's always so striking, especially today. It feels like we're all drowning in an endless ocean of information, yet we're thirstier than ever to reach the shores of success. You speak of specialized knowledge. For someone listening to this conversation today, what does that principle truly mean? What's the common promise it makes?
An excellent question, Dr. Sinclair. You see, the common understanding is the one that generations of parents and our entire educational system have championed. It's the path that seems perfectly logical. Go to school, then to college. Pick a field, study it deeply, become an expert. The prevailing wisdom is that the more credentials you collect, the more knowledge you accumulate in that specific field, the more valuable you will be, and therefore the more successful and prosperous. That is the simple, initial promise of the principle. More knowledge equals more success.
Exactly. And that's precisely where I get stuck, on a kind of intellectual knot, a massive paradox I can't ignore.
Go on.
The path you just described is the one my generation and the ones after have followed almost religiously. I see people all around me with multiple master's degrees, even PhDs, true specialists who've dedicated years of their lives to acquiring a very specific set of knowledge. And yet, so many of them are unemployed or chronically underemployed in jobs that have nothing to do with their expertise, earning far less than they ever expected. It feels like that initial promise has been broken. And then you see the opposite. A YouTuber in their 20s with no college degree builds a multi-million-dollar empire talking about video games. Or a self-taught entrepreneur drops out of school, builds a simple app, and creates a fortune that rivals an established industrial company. So my question is, Mr. Hill, has the very definition of knowledge fundamentally changed? Or is it possible that your principle, in the face of this modern reality, has lost its power? That it's become, in a way, a beautiful self-deception?
That is an incredibly astute observation, Dr. Sinclair. And the question you're asking isn't a sign of the principle's failure, it is the missing key to understanding it. You pointed out a paradox, and you are right to do so. But the conflict doesn't stem from a flaw in the principle itself. It stems from our flawed interpretation of two crucial words: acquiring versus using.
Acquiring versus using.
Yes. Our entire educational system is built on the foundation of acquiring knowledge, accumulating facts in one's memory. But wealth, significant success, is never the result of mere accumulation. It is the result of the intelligent application of that knowledge. The professor you mentioned is an expert at acquiring, but that young YouTuber, perhaps unknowingly, is an expert at using.
That's an interesting distinction, but a part of it is still hazy for me. Let's take a titan, for example, someone like Henry Ford. We can't deny that he must have possessed a profoundly deep knowledge of engineering and manufacturing. In his case, the acquiring and the using must have been inseparable. Wasn't he the ultimate hands-on expert in all of these areas? How could he have built such an empire otherwise?
Excellent. That is the very assumption most people make. And as it happens, there is a remarkable true story about this that cuts directly to the heart of your question, a story that reveals the true nature of Ford's genius. It took place during a courtroom trial. A Chicago newspaper had published an article attacking Mr. Ford, calling him, among other things, an ignorant pacifist.
Ignorant? They called Henry Ford ignorant.
Precisely. Mr. Ford was deeply insulted and sued the paper for libel. During the proceedings, the newspaper's lawyers set out to prove that he was, in fact, an ignorant man. They began grilling him with a barrage of general information questions. Questions like, who was Benedict Arnold? Or, how many soldiers did the British send over to put down the rebellion in 1776?
Questions that had absolutely nothing to do with the automotive industry. They were trying to humiliate him in front of the jury.
Exactly. They wanted to demonstrate that this great titan of industry didn't even know basic historical facts. Mr. Ford, growing weary and impatient as this avalanche of irrelevant questions continued, finally reached his breaking point. In response to one particularly offensive question, he leaned forward from the witness stand, pointed his finger directly at the lawyer who had asked it, and said, "If I should really want to answer the foolish question you have just asked, or any of the other questions you have been asking me, let me remind you that I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and by pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire to ask concerning the business to which I am devoting most of my efforts."
Now, will you kindly tell me, why should I clutter my mind with general knowledge for the purpose of being able to answer questions when I have men around me who can supply any knowledge I require?
Wow.
The entire courtroom fell silent. The attorney was speechless. They had all come face to face with a great unexpected truth. It wasn't that Mr. Ford was ignorant. It was that he was educated, truly educated, but in his own way.
Because his definition of education was different.
Precisely. An educated person is not necessarily one with an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they may acquire anything they want, or its equivalent, without violating the rights of others. Do you see, Dr. Sinclair? Ford's genius was not in hoarding facts. His genius was in his ability to organize and direct the specialized knowledge of others. He had built for himself a mastermind group. His own mind was kept free from non-essential information so that he could focus on the one thing that mattered, directing that collective knowledge toward a definite, specific purpose. That is real power.
So specialized knowledge isn't necessarily what you have stored in your own brain. It's what you have access to. And more importantly, it's knowing how to apply it to achieve a specific goal. That changes everything.
Yes, it changes everything, because it shifts the entire game from who knows the most to who can organize and execute the best.
And that explains it perfectly. It's the answer to the paradox. It's why the professor with the wall of degrees might be struggling financially while the young YouTuber builds an empire. The professor has spent a lifetime meticulously filling his mental library, but the YouTuber has opened for business in his mental workshop. That YouTuber might not be an expert in cinematography or editing, but they know how to apply the knowledge of a professional editor. They may not be a marketing guru, but they know how to use the expertise of SEO specialists and algorithm analysts to achieve their definite goal, which is to be seen. They're organizing the knowledge of others, just like Henry Ford.
Beautifully put, Dr. Sinclair. You have taken the essence of that story and translated it perfectly for the modern world. And in your era, this principle is 1,000 times more potent, and yet far more dangerous than it was in mine.
More dangerous? How so?
Because you have access to the greatest repository of knowledge in human history, the Internet. This tool has the potential to create an invisible mastermind group for every single person on the planet. You can access specialized knowledge in any field within seconds. But that very abundance of information also creates a powerful, dangerous illusion, the illusion of knowing.
The illusion of knowing. Yes, because we can look anything up in an instant, we feel like we know it. But in reality, we just have access to it.
Precisely. And what's more, that same endless ocean of information is also the greatest source of distraction ever conceived. In my time, the primary challenge was finding specialized knowledge. It was scarce. In your time, the primary challenge is ignoring irrelevant information and maintaining focus. Without a definite purpose, without a practical plan of action, all of this specialized knowledge at your fingertips isn't power at all. It becomes a heavy, paralyzing weight.
That picture you paint is both illuminating and a little frightening. So, for the person listening right now who feels paralyzed under that very weight of information you described, what is the first practical step? The very first move to start turning all that potential knowledge into actual power? Where do they possibly begin?
There are two steps, two very definite steps. First, you must resist the powerful temptation to learn everything. Instead of scattering your energy across a dozen interests, choose one specific, marketable skill, just one. A skill that you have a genuine interest in and that the marketplace has a tangible need for. This means consciously filtering out 99% of the information that comes your way each day.
And the second step?
The second step is the most critical of all. Immediately, starting today, you must change your identity from that of a passive consumer of information to an active creator or producer. Instead of watching another 100 hours of tutorials on how to be a writer, sit down and write a 10-page short story. See it through to the end. Instead of reading 20 more books on web design, build a simple website, even a free one, for a local business or a friend. It is this act of creation, this immediate, practical application that forges raw, scattered data into a real, valuable ability. You must apply the knowledge long before you feel ready, because no one ever feels perfectly ready.
That's brilliant. So in the end, this entire conversation comes down to one simple, powerful truth. Your mind is not a library to be valued by the number of books on its shelves. Your mind is a workshop to be valued by what it creates. It doesn't matter how many tools you have lining the walls of that workshop. All that matters is what you build with them.